Hello, my name is Maher Malki, Business Central Program Manager for Western Computer. Today I will be discussing the Dynamics 365 Business Central CRM module. With any CRM product or any decent CRM product worth its weight, it all revolves around the contacts, your customer contacts, and all the interactions and touch points with your contacts to get that 365-degree view of your contacts. So I'm going to go ahead and just do a quick search here within Business Central. And I'm going to head over to contacts and take a look at my contacts. What you'll see here is a listing of all the contacts. The way the contact list is structured here in Business Central is slightly different than any other list that you would see within Business Central. There's a hierarchy here of who the parent record is and who the child record is. So for example, here Gibson's Law Firm is the company, and then the people below it are not bold, right? So Alan, David, and Lori are not bold. So I want to just do a quick search here for, let's say, the Canon Group. So I just typed in the CAN just to find the contact that I was looking for. What you'll see here, again, is everybody underneath the Canon Group, all the people. So first, I'd like to talk about the Canon Group, the contact as a company, and then I'll talk about one of the individuals below it and show you how everything rolls up. So I'm going to drill into the contact here for the Canon Group, and what you'll see right away is there's some basic contact information, who the company name is, who the sales rep is, as well as one of the important components for this is this record a company or a person? And then it automatically tracks things like when was the last time this record was modified, when was the last time we had an interaction or a touch point, and we'll talk about these interactions in a minute. The last time we attempted to contact them, and then the next time that we're looking to contact them. We're looking at things here like exclude from segments, and we'll talk about segmentation in a minute. This is your ability to create marketing lists based on some of the things that we're going to talk about, whether it's the contact itself or some of their buying habits and buying history, and the ability to be able to segment your contacts for marketing purposes. It can be set up so that it's a global contact list where everybody can see all of the contacts. We could turn on something that's called Responsibility Center. I'll show you that in a minute, where everybody only sees their own respective contacts. It's one of those cases where you can have it both ways. So here, I just have a flat number series for contacts. They all start with a CT, and then 000 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1. You can have different number series. So I've seen some customers have a number series specific to a sales rep code, or you can put anything that you want in there. You can manually enter in what that contact number is. So you're not restricted to the system defining what the number series is. For each individual contact that you create, you can put your own number in there. That's the standard within all of Business Central. So you can have the system automatically assign the number, or you could enter one in yourself. Now, we do have some recommendations that we'd like for you to adhere to. So something like a sales order, for example, you may not want somebody to have to generate a new sales order number every time you create a sales order, but something like master records, like customers, vendors, contacts, no problem. If you have a smart numbering scheme, you can certainly use that here. I'm going to leave the contact card open for the Canon Group. You'll see it here, it says contact. And I'm going to go to customer. And I'm going to look at my customer list. And you'll see that I have the Canon Group here. This is the customer record that is different than the contact record for the Canon Group. We could set up different permission sets even for customers and contacts, because very often what we'll find is that our customers prefer somebody like the AR department to manage the customer record and the salespeople to manage the contact record. So here, if I come into the customer record, for example, you'll see that this is the customer card, which is different than the contact card for the Canon Group. Now, I can, from the customer card, I can come here and navigate to the contact record, and then vice versa. From the contact, I can come and navigate to the customer card as well. So I can go both ways on that. So using our permission sets, they can have, for example, read-only access to the customer record and full read-write access to the contact record. That's a very common thing that we see all the time. So here, from within the customer card, remember this is the customer master where we control things like credit limit and whether we want to block them and what have you. From here, even I can click on that contact link, and what it's going to do is it's going to open up the window for me to show me the contacts below it. So the candidate group is a bad example here because I have somebody playing with the data. Let me pick a different customer. And it'll show you all the contacts there below it. Here, I'm back at the contact record. And at the contact record again, I see who's the responsible salesperson right here. I think it's Paul Shadow. So the sales rep will have full access to this. From a communication standpoint, we see your basic address and your phone number and fax number and website and all of that. Foreign trade details if they're using different currencies. And then the profile questionnaire over here. And the profile questionnaire is a pretty powerful feature. I'd like to come back to this after I give you a little more details about the rest of the contact components. You'll see here on the right, we can import things like a logo. And we see a quick view of all of their opportunities right here as well. So I could see how many opportunities I have in the pipeline for them, what the estimated value for those opportunities, and what the calculated value is. And when we get into opportunities, we'll talk a little bit more about that in detail. We can associate multiple job responsibilities, industry groups, and or mailing groups for each of the contacts. Business relations is what defines your relationship with this particular contact. Now, this particular contact, the business relation is the customer. So you see that it came straight back to the customer card when I clicked on the business relation. In some cases, you're going to have a business relation that's a lead. You can even use the CRM that's in Business Central for interactions with your vendors. So there's a business relation for vendors where I would tie vendor master into the contact master here, very much the same way we're doing it with the customers. The profile questionnaire here, you have the ability to have multiple different profiles, and you can define what the questionnaires are for each of the profiles. The best way I can describe it to you is work from a simpler example forward. Profile questionnaire allows you to profile your customers based on a series of questions that you define. Some of the questions can be filled in manually, things that the system wouldn't know about. So, for example, the number of employees. The system wouldn't know what the number of employees is for this particular customer, but your salespeople can fill this information in. So you'll see here that this particular customer has 1 to 99 employees. They are on the stock exchange, and any additional business relations, we can say, yep, they're a partner. All of these questions and answers are defined by you. Above and beyond some of the manual answers, we can drive questions in here that can automatically calculate based on your customer's buying habits. So some of the things that we can do here is we can say, hey, what is the customer's purchase frequency for last year? They've purchased more than 5 times, more than 10 times, more than 20 times. We could see what their overall dollar turns was last year. Well, this is a sample customer. They had low volume, below $1,000. But what is their turn for the current year? And we see the current year, it's over $4,000. What was their discount usage? Now, remember, these questions here, the system is dynamically calculating this and bringing this forward. So the distinct advantage that you have with using the CRM that's built into Business Central is that we have visibility to the customer's buying habits and what they're buying, the product categories, and the volume and velocity of their purchases. We can crunch that data dynamically and deliver it here. Is there a limit to the number of questions that can be entered here? No, there is no limit. As you can see, it's just an ongoing list, and we can keep adding more and more. Now, I'd like to take you to the questionnaire section and give you a high-level brush of some of the questionnaires that can be created. So you'll see here that these are all questionnaires based on the type of contact it is. So I can have a general all-purpose questionnaire. I can have one that's specific to customers. I can have one that's specific to leads. So you may want to collect this information over time. Because again, if we're looking at your standard process where it's lead to customer, we don't want to lose that historical data. And of course, these questions can be filtered based on the contact type. So what we're looking at right now, earlier, was the contact card for the Canon Group, which is a company. But later, when I show you a person that works for the Canon Group, their question sets might be slightly different because the questions are more specific to a person rather than a company. We can even have things in here like satisfaction index and sales potentials. I want to show you just a very quick question and answer, right? So if I say edit the questionnaire for a customer, this is what it looks like. Now, fear not, this is just some back-end stuff a little bit, but here's how we structure it. We add a question, and then we define a series of answers below it for the system to choose from. And as you can see here, I can keep adding as many questions as I want and as many answers as I want. So for each type of questionnaire, I can have an infinite number of questions behind it. And of course, I can have an infinite number of questionnaires. I'm going to come back to this record. I just want to show you the slight difference between a contact card that's for a customer, like the Canon Group, versus the contact card for a person that works for them, as in David. We know David works for the Canon Group. So here's the contact record for David. Same kind of information. One of the main differences here is that type field right here. It shows us the person, not a company. If I scroll down, what you'll find is my questionnaires are slightly different for David. For David, all I'm really interested in finding out is what's his educational level, his hobbies, and maybe his gender. In some cases, when we define those questionnaires, we can define that they can only choose one answer, and in other cases, we can define that they can choose more than one answer. For example, hobbies, I might want to say, hey, David has 3 hobbies, football, golf, and tennis. You'll notice that I was able to put 3 answers in under hobbies. But if I was to try to say David is both male and female, I'm going to throw an error that says, hey, multiple answers are not allowed for this question. So I have to remove one of them. Again, these are all setups that you define when creating the questionnaire. Very powerful stuff. We'll come back and talk a little bit more about these profile questionnaires when we start segmenting our contacts. Because later what we can do from a marketing standpoint is we can create a segment that looks and peers into those profile questionnaires and allows you to add a contact to a segment based on those answers. And it could be a system-generated answer, or it could be a manually entered answer. Both will work the same for us. Any good CRM is going to give you the ability to track the customer, track an interaction touch point, and we call that an interaction. So here I'm going to go ahead and select the Create an Interaction, and I'm presented with this large form, and don't be discouraged by this. We default a lot of this information. As a matter of fact, you could even say show less. There's 2 required fields here to create a touch point or an interaction with one of your contacts. The first one is, hey, what template you want to use for this touch point. There's some predefined templates that we like to use, some very commonly used things like email and letters and cover sheets, incoming phone calls and outgoing phone calls, meetings and memos. But if there's specific interaction touch points that you've made that's not in this list, it can be added here as well. So you'll see that you can add one right here. But for this example, I'm going to just say an outgoing phone call. And by doing so, it automatically brought in a brief description for me. And in here, I could say, had a call with David to discuss something. It defaulted in the salesperson code. And that's really all I need to put in here. I don't need to put anything else in here. But if you want to tie this interaction to a particular campaign or tie this interaction touch point to a particular opportunity, you can do that right here. And we'll do all this again when we get to opportunities later. But I'm going to go ahead and click OK. And now what I did was I just flagged a touch point to this contact. Now, the question is, how do we see that 360-degree view? Well, I can come here and click on Navigate, History, and look at the interaction log entries. Now, the interaction log entries here is going to show you 2 things. It's going to show you those manual touch points that I just created. So if I scroll down, you should see that outgoing phone call somewhere in this list. There it is. But what it also does is It's looking to see anything the system did that was a touch point, and it logs it in here. So for example, I'm able to see every single sales quote that was created right from the screen. I could see every shipment that went out, every invoice that went out, every credit memo that went out directly from the same screen. So we're able to track the emails at the contact level as well. Now, I'm going to flip over to email in a minute and show you how the integration over on the email side works as well, because all of this works from your email as well. Well, I'll show you that in a minute. It's going to show you everything. Now, you can set filters to specify what you're looking to see. So let me go ahead and go back to the interaction log entries here. So every one of these columns, I can sort or filter against any one of these columns. So for example, here, if I click on the date field, I can sort ascending, descending, or I could filter to specific values. So I can say, hey, I want to set a filter that shows me anything that is from January 1st, 2018 to, let's say, 12/31/2018, for example. So if you're familiar with Excel, you should be able to filter it here as well. Same kind of concept. I can also filter based on the touch point, the interaction type. So I can come here and say, hey, I want to filter to anything that is an outgoing phone call, for example. So I can come here and say, okay, outgoing phone call. And I can do multiple values, like to show me outgoing phone calls and emails. So it just sets those filters for you, and you're able to see that snapshot. So now we have a contact, typically a lead. So we have a lead here. If I'm stepping through your standard process, we've captured some notes, we've captured some information, and now we're ready to create an opportunity. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to create opportunity. And we can define what the opportunity number is, or we could let the system automatically generate the opportunity for us. We can give the opportunity a description. It knows that it's tied back to the Canon group because I got here from the Canon group. I can just go and create an opportunity and link it back to the contact. Some nice little automation there for us. I can also then define who the salesperson is going to be working on this particular opportunity. So we're going to go ahead and say Peter. And then we can define the sales cycle. So we can have different sales cycles based on the client. We have different sales cycles based on the prospect, their size, or just what they're looking to buy. Here I have just some sample sales cycles for you, but I want to drill into the sales cycles and show you the structure of the sales cycle. So here you'll see I have 4 or 5 sales cycles, one for an existing customer, one for existing large accounts or small accounts, for a first-time small account, first-time large account. For each of these, you can define what the process is for each of these sales cycles. So if I go to stages for the extra large existing customer, you'll see that there's 5 stages that we've defined. Again, these stages are defined by you. This is just some sample information. So here you'll see there's an initial touch point, understanding. Second phase is understanding customer needs, product presentation, proposal, signed contract. We can define for percent complete, so the system will automatically update based on the advancement of the sales cycle, what percent complete we are. And we'll also define the chances of success based on how many different stages you have within your sales cycle. You can specify what you want here. We can force a quote being required at a certain stage. So we could say, hey, by the time we get to the proposal stage, we need to make sure we at least have a quote for this contact out there and tied to the opportunity. And the system will enforce that for you. You can even define whether you're allowing a sales rep to skip a step in the sales cycle. So as we start advancing through the sales cycle, some sales reps might want to skip a step and may allow them or not. That's up to you. The date formula here, you could specify what the time period for that specific stage is. So you could say, hey, this particular sales cycle should typically last about 1 month or 3 weeks. You could define that. You don't have to, as you see here, I leave it blank, and you can advance the sales cycle based on how quickly the customer moves. So I'm just going to take a step back out of editing the sales cycle because I wanted to show it to you. And I'm going to go ahead and just choose that same sales cycle. So I'm going to say that this is an existing customer, large account. I'm going to go ahead and say OK, and it's going to bring that into the sales cycle for me. You'll see the date it's created, date closed, and we can even make this part of a segment. So from here, some of the things that we can do, like I mentioned earlier, is I can create an interaction that ties to this particular opportunity directly. So if I'm working up this opportunity and I'm going to make a phone call or I'm going to send an email, I can come here and just very quickly create an interaction or create a touch point with this particular contact. And what it's going to do is you'll see right here that it's relating this particular interaction automatically back to the opportunity. It's an automatic relation. I didn't have to tell it to do that. I'm going to go ahead and click OK. And now we went ahead and we tracked another touch point to this customer. This time it's associated to an opportunity. So from here, I'm going to go ahead and activate the first stage. And now it's asking me to validate, verify, and I'm going to go ahead and say yes. And now we are in the first stage of that opportunity. So you'll see here, we're in the first stage, it's called the initial stage. I could specify what the estimated value is for this opportunity, the percent complete that we saw based on the sales stage or the cycle that we had defined. And it shows me that I'm in that stage one. I can change some of these values if I want to, or if I'm allowed to. Chance of success came from that sales cycle and the probability as well. So we're starting to build that funnel. We're starting to build that pipeline. I can come here and I can say, okay, I want to go ahead and process. And at this point, I can create a sales quote that's associated to this. Rather than just having an estimated value, if I create a sales quote, I'll have a calculated value. I can update the opportunity and advance it to the next phase. I'm going to go ahead and update that, and you'll see it steps me through a wizard. Everything that I'm showing you here is using a desktop web client, but of course you could do all of this from your phone and or tablet. So what this is asking is, hey, how do you want to advance this? Well, I want to go to the next stage. I don't want to jump or update or go back to the first stage. I just want to go to the next. It's showing me that I'm going to go to the second stage of the cycle. I can define the date and I can update the estimated value. Let's say this is going to be a $50,000 value or $500,000 value. What are my chances of success? When do I think I'm going to close it? So let's say I'm going to close this. April 2019 is fine. And I'm going to go ahead and click OK. So you'll see, once again, that here I have advanced the opportunity. I've updated to the second stage. My percent complete updated, the estimated value updated, and so on and so forth. Now, one of the things that we didn't talk about much earlier are tasks. And I should have shown you tasks when we were talking about contacts. I'll show it to you here within context of the opportunity, because this is where I see it being used the most. We talked about interactions, and an interaction is something that either just happened or happened previously. I received an email from somebody last night, or I received a phone call, or I made a phone call either an hour ago, or I just hung up the phone and I want to log that information. What a task is something that's going to happen in the future. And that task is going to generate a reminder for me. So I'm going to come here and say create task, and you'll see that it gives me a list of the existing tasks that I have for this particular opportunity. How did these tasks get here? Well, we tie tasks to different stages within the opportunity. So when I get to the second stage of an opportunity, I'm able to remind the sales rep that they need to make a phone call in 2 weeks. They need to send a letter in 3 weeks. They need to follow up in 4 weeks to see if the customer received the letter. These are all time and date stamped. And of course, the integration to Outlook is there. So I'll get the notification in Outlook, I'll get the notification on my phone, or of course, I can come here and look at my task list and be able to see all of my tasks. Now, one thing I didn't show when I was advancing to the next stage, so here I'm going to go ahead and advance to the third stage. There was a question here that says cancel existing open tasks, because what we do is we generate a bunch of tasks for that phase for you. And then if you want to advance to the next level, what this option allows you to do is say, hey, despite the fact that this is a fast-moving opportunity, go ahead and cancel all the tasks that I still have open for this opportunity, because I know it's going to create new ones based on the fact that I'm advancing to the next level. So if there's 6 or 8 tasks that need to be completed within a phase of an opportunity, we can cancel all those tasks and then advance the phase because we know it's going to drop 6 or 8 new tasks on our task list for us for the next phase. So as you can see here, I could tie a sales quote or a sales order to an opportunity. So for contacts, we can create quotes within the system, but they have to be a customer to create a sales order. The difference between a sales quote and a sales order within the system is that at a sales order level, we're checking their open balances. We are allocating inventory when we put an item on the line. But at a sales quote level, we don't really care about the balance yet. We don't really care about allocating inventory yet. So that's why the system allows you to create quotes for contacts that are not yet customers. When we advance that contact to a customer, that automation I showed you a minute ago, there's the same kind of automation of advancing a sales quote to a sales order. With a click of a single button, it converts that sales quote to a sales order, checks the credit limit, it triggers whatever workflows that need to happen, allocates the inventory for the order right from within the opportunity. I could see all of the interaction touch points that have happened within that opportunity as well. So I only made one interaction touch point. I didn't do any tasks. So here it's filtering just to the opportunities touch points. So at any time, if I want to see everything that happened for this opportunity, this is where I would go. But of course, this does show up when I go all the way back to the contact record for the Canon group here, and I look at the interaction log entries. I will, of course, see that because from the contact level, it's a roll-up. It rolls up all of the interaction touch points to show here in one central place. So an email is nothing more than an interaction touch. So if I come back to action and I create an interaction, I believe I have that set up for the Gulf outing email. So if I say the Gulf outing, in the background, this is an email. Notice it opened up this box here for content. I can come here and say, this is an email that I'm going to send. Go ahead and click OK. Now notice it created an email for me. It automatically brought in the email address, the subject, and then the body is here. I'm using a template to fill the body, so that template is bringing in the company logo and the date, but I can just say, it's a custom message. And I can just come here and fill in whatever I want. So I'm going to go ahead and just shoot that out this way. Here's that email that just came in. If I'm here in Outlook and I have an email like this where a customer is saying, send me a quote for something, right here you'll see Business Central, and we can click on the Contact Insights. And now what this is doing in the background, it's opening up Business Central for me. And it's giving me all the details behind Business Central. So I see what the customer's balance is, what their past due is, last year to date sales, this year to date sales. I could see if they have overdue by time frame, all of their sales orders and sales quotes, all kinds of statistics, and so on and so forth. So right from within Outlook, I'm seeing all this information. Once again, here, I can create a sales quote directly from Outlook. This fella is requesting a quote for a bike. I don't have to leave Outlook and go to Business Central to do this. I can do it right from here. So it saw automatically that he's part of the Canon group. It brought that information in here. And then again, all I have to do is just choose item and put the bike in, and I'm good to go. Put a quantity of 1 in. So the level of integration here is all built into that whole Microsoft stack that we know and love. There's certainly a lot more to show you underneath the contact, things like applying templates so that we're creating contacts quicker. And like I said earlier, if I have a contact, I can convert them to a customer, a vendor, or a bank, some of these examples for you. And then from a process standpoint, this is where I can create sales quotes for them and opportunities. But I want to move on and talk a little bit about segments and campaigns as they relate to the contacts here. So I'm going to go ahead and jump over to segments. I'm going to go ahead and create a new segment here. Give it a description. I can have a salesperson own a particular segment. Now remember, this is like a marketing list. Now the question here becomes, how do we get contacts into the list here? Well, if we choose to say add contacts, we're presented with the ability to have different ways of bringing a lot of contacts in. Some very easy and common examples are, based on the contact record, what commonality are you looking for? So for example, give me everybody who has a sales rep code of Anita Hill, or I think the example I was using was Peter. That's easy to do, and any system will do this for you. However, where we have some additional powers here, some additional superpowers, I should say, is that we can pull answers from those profile questionnaires that we saw earlier. So remember, the profile questionnaire is crunching the data, the customer's buying habits, it's putting them into buckets, and now we're coming here and we're saying, hey, anybody that purchased a certain grouping of product or has specific buying habits, I want to be able to pull them into a certain bucket. So remember earlier when we were looking at some of those answers in the Canon group, and we saw that there were top 25% of our customers, I can pull that list back and know exactly across all of my customers and market to them specifically. You're only going to see this with something that has all the financial data and all the sales data in it. If you have disparate systems, you're not going to be able to pull that kind of level together. Interaction log entries. Anybody who I reached out about the golf outing, anybody that I sent an email to about the golf outing, anybody who I had a phone call with in the last few days, anybody who I had a touch point based on an opportunity in the last 2 days, I can pull them all in here. And then finally, value entry. And value entries, let me define what value entries are here within Business Central. Anytime somebody purchases anything, in the background, we're creating a value entry. That value entry ultimately makes its way over to the GL. But the power behind this is saying, hey, give me every customer that's ever purchased a bicycle or a group of bicycles or within a certain date or within a specific posting group, a specific type of product. So we're going to go ahead and say, okay, now as the system's going to go out there and it's going to look for everybody that's purchased a bike and it's going to bring back their contact records for us. I tried to pick a really simple example here, not to have too many records come back, but certainly I can pick a very broad example and it'll pull them all back for us. Before I tie it all together, of course, you can come in here and add contact onesie twosies. This is a commonality, something people can always do. I can manually put a contact in here. I can also continue to add to this list. So I can come here and continue to add more contacts into this segment. I can save my criteria and reuse it later. I'm going to do a pretty broad example here now. I'm going to say everybody who has a salesperson code of Peter. I brought back all of Peter's contacts. You'll see there's 40 lines that came back, and we did 3 search criteria to pull this list back. Well, 2 plus 1, where I did some law firm in here manually. So here's the criteria it shows you, and you can drill in and see exactly what those filters were that we added. How did I get here? How did I get this list of 40 people? Well, first I did a value entry filter for the bike. Then I manually added a contact. Then I added everything to salesperson equaling Peter. Now let's tie all this together. So now that you guys know how we create segments and you guys know what interactions are, I can create a segment and automate the interactions going out. So if I want to invite all 40 of these people to the golf outing, simply come here, interaction template, choose the golf outing. It's going to send this email to everybody. I'm going to say no, but it's saying, hey, you're about to do this. Are you sure? I can put the subject in. I can do an email template and associate it here. And once I log the segment, it'll push everything out. This is a way to create a lot of interactions very, very quickly, bringing it full circle for you. I can take this entire segment and drop them into a campaign. And we're talking about campaigns, we have campaign targets and campaign responses. And typically what you'll find is if I'm sending an email blast to 100 people, the general rule is that 1% get back to you on it. When I send that initial 100-person email out, that's my campaign target. That one person that comes back to me is my campaign response. So you take this and you scale it up, 1,000 emails go out, 10 people come in, now I have 2 segments. And we use those 2 segments from a reporting standpoint to measure the effectiveness of the campaign and what the responses are. And all of that gets tracked back to the interaction log entries. Thank you for watching. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel to stay up to date on the latest product releases and tips and tricks from Western Computer.